Hi, I'm Tony Anscombe, a Global Security Evangelist here at ESET. Today I'd like to talk to you about GDPR. This is the General Data Protection Regulation that comes into force in May in the European Union. But it affects companies all over the world. In fact, it will affect citizens all over the world as well, I think. GDPR basically gives control back to the person whose data it is. So me as the end user, whether I'm a business user or whether I'm a consumer, I get control and I have to give consent for somebody to collect my data. There are then responsibilities on that company to make sure they manage the data correctly. They're collecting it for the right reasons. They can't keep it for extended periods of time. They have to keep the data encrypted, and we'll come back to that point. Now, how does this affect everybody globally when this is a European directive? If I'm in Europe and I'm connecting to a website or a service outside of Europe, then that service has to afford me the same privileges that I would do if all of it was in Europe. So it has to be GDPR compliant. Now, take the scenario where I'm traveling through an airport or I'm traveling on vacation through Europe and I'm not a European citizen, and I connect back to a website I use frequently in another country, not part of the European Union, then actually that website wouldn't need to be GDPR compliant, because GDPR applies to everybody in the EU at the moment of being in the EU. So it doesn't just apply to EU citizens. So if you are providing services, if you do have visitors that are coming from the European Union, you need to look at GDPR, you need to have a plan, and you need to make sure that you're compliant. There are lots of regulators. There's every European country, so I think 27 different regulatory authorities will be monitoring it. And while smaller sites may not be affected to start with, some of those bigger sites, I'm sure those regulators are looking at what they're doing. To start with, I think they'll negotiate, they'll tell you how to improve things. As long as you can show a plan, then I think you'll be in pretty good shape. But don't sit there and think this doesn't apply. It does apply, and you do need to understand this regulation.